And I strongly encouraged her to get on the phone and call them back. And she said she would, and she did. But I said, Dixie, you need to tell, in my opinion, you need to tell, do an interview. Let them sit you down and you tell your story. And
the final part of Dark Side of the Ring Battle for TNA aired this past Tuesday, and I'll call this the downfall episode because this is where everything went to hell. And we all know from the first two episodes of the Dark Side of the Ring Battle for TNA, we know that Jeff Jarrett, he founded TNA. We know that Dixie Carter was already working for him. He was in a bind. And Dixie said that, hey, my family has money. I'm just giving you guys the quick version. My family has money, and her parents invested in TNA. And then slowly but surely, Dixie would try to get power from Jeff. And in part 3, we learn about the downfall. This is when she pretty much gets Jeff almost completely out of the company. And this is when she also talks about, for example, Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff being brought in. Now, in this episode as well, we saw Jeff Jarrett and Karen. We saw them talk about their endeavors with after TNA with Global Force Wrestling. And even when TNA was sold, we learned that, I knew this, but when TNA was sold, TNA was doing a collaboration with Global Force. And Jeff thought he could rekindle the old flame, but slowly but surely it did not work out in the long run. Now, interesting is the fact that Dixie Carter is not in this documentary at all. And two people in particular who were involved in TNA were Jeff Jarrett and Vince Russo, who were heavily featured. Vince Russo was heavily featured in this as well. So Vince Russo had a lot to say about this. And let's hear what Vince Russo had to say about Dixie Carter not being in the Dark Side of the Ring episode. Fair use.
Backer, I did not see her anywhere in the 3 episodes. Why not?
Well, I know for a fact because he has said it. Jeff Jarrett contacted Dixie to be a part of this show. Okay. And Dixie turned it down. Now, Coach, listen, I always try to put myself in everybody else's shoes. I know looking back, Dixie probably went through 10 times the amount of pain at TNA than I did. There's no question about it. It's probably a memory that she wants to forget. So when you do a show like this, it's all brought up. Bro, I noticed that when I was writing Total Nonstop Agony, it was all in there. And as much as I wanted to keep it in, it came out. So I can understand Dixie not wanting to put herself through that. It would have been very emotional and it would have been very tough. But on the other side of that coin, Coach, she got hammered. I mean, she got hammered. And I don't know if that's the right decision because there's got to be a point where you defend yourself.
Correct.
There's got to be a point and say, wait a minute, I did A, B, C, and D because of. So
Russo's right with this because the fact that she's not in this at all is mind-blowing. Now, if you just want to forget about that part of your life, that's fine. But the things that they're saying now, I don't think nothing crazy was said to defame Dixie in this documentary for her to have some reaction or anything like that. This was pretty much work stuff. There were no allegations really when it came to this. And let's continue to hear what they have to say. But I do believe that she should say something.
If you don't let us know that side of it, then we don't know. So like I said, man, I understand her not participating, but I don't know if that was the right move. What would you have done, Coach, in her shoes?
Man, so the only thing I can equate it to is getting asked to be a part of Vince's documentaries, 2 different ones. And I had to weigh out or have, weighed out the decision of, would it do anything for me? And if I'm Dixie Carter, I would have to say, at this point in my life, I don't know how old she is now. And I don't know, what she's working on now. But if she's not in the industry, if she doesn't need good PR for whatever she's working on now, then maybe she doesn't have social media. Maybe she doesn't care if she gets pounded by everybody that's in it. Because I have not watched the 3rd installment yet. I'm going to watch it today. But if I'm at an age of 70 or 75 and I'm just kind of enjoying my life at this point, I don't know that I would do it. But knowing me, I would want to defend myself because I would know I did a lot of good work. And you tell me if I'm wrong here. Without her, there is no TNA to even speak of, correct?
There is no TNA today without Dixie Carter. And that's what people need to understand. Coach, what happened was I literally was consulting for the WWE.
Okay.
Jeff wanted me to write for TNA. So I went to Stephanie, who was my boss. I said, listen, I don't want you reading this in the dirt sheets. I'm going to TNA to check out the show because I don't know if I want to be a consultant. I might want to go work with Jeff,
Dig in.
So, yeah. So I went to the second show, the absolute second show. And basically when that show was over, it was just me and Jeff. And Jeff was starting to drink a little, and I could tell something was really upsetting him. So Jeff basically told me, now keep in mind, I just turned down the WWE and said I was going to go work for Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff told me that he lost his backer. They lost their money the second show.
Between 1 and 2. Between 1 and 2.
Between 1 and 2. No, the second show was complete.
Okay.
The second show was complete.
Okay.
They lose it. They're gone. He doesn't have any money. The backers are gone. He doesn't know what to do.
All right, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, in the chat, but I believe Russo's referring to the second episode that was on TV, not the pay-per-view version of TNA.
Literally, Coach, I think it was like 3 days after that, I'm at Jeff's house. And my family was there with his family, and Jeff takes me to the side, and he says to me, You know Dixie Carter, who's doing our PR? I said, yes. Mm-hmm. And he said, she told me that maybe I should have a conversation with her parents because they own a big energy company in Dallas. Nobody knew this. None of us
What?
knew. And I think the next day, Jeff went and met with the Carters, and that's when they agreed and came up with a deal to put their money up. Without that happening, TNA is done.
So how many? So I've got a lot of questions here. So how many talent at that point?
So Dixie Carter is responsible for saving TNA because, as Russo just said, that if she doesn't work for the company already, there's a high chance, a high probability that TNA doesn't make it past that second show.
Since you're 2 episodes in, had Jeff convinced to sign with TNA, and were there any like exclusive deals where like, hey, we have the money, so you're going to come over and it's going to be a year or two? Did he have names that were locked in just for TNA, and was there that pressure as well?
Oh, I'm sure there were names locked in because money was not an object. He had a budget. They knew what it was going to cost, and he had a backer taking care of everything. That went away like that. TNA's dead. It's over.
So how fast between that night, the meeting with Dixie Carter's parents, did they write a check and make it seem seamless like there was never an issue?
Within a week.
Wow. How much do you think they put in?
Within a week. Oh, my God. Honestly, I have no idea. But it was that fast. It was within a week because we did not miss a week. We did not miss a beat.
So let me ask you this, because right now, obviously, Tony Khan used Dad's money. But
all right. So that is that was Vince Russo giving you pretty much the quick version of Dixie Carter's involvement when it comes to TNA wrestling and her contributions. So, we know Dixie Carter. Her family funds the company, and Dixie starts to wants control. And then she would eventually bring in Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff. And bringing in Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff, Russo skeptical about them coming in. He knew they wanted power, and that's essentially when the downfall begins. And I'm paraphrasing a bit, but MJF talked about this when he was on Ariel Helwani's show. He said that AEW bad. There were bad things going on, and it's hard to get the stench off of something for people. And that era of Jeff Jarrett being gone was the stench that TNA has, and they fought for 16 years to get off of them, because that is what a lot of people know TNA for, is the things that happened with Dixie, Hogan, Bischoff, and then they even talk about the guys that they brought in. They talked about how Hogan was bringing in all his buddies. You know, if you were a friend of Hulk Hogan, you had a job. And that was a part of the downfall of the company. And also, we had the situation where Hogan's leaving. He has his creative control card. And Hogan, he's just going to go. No, brother, it doesn't work for me. So there's an angle where Hogan says he quits, and Dixie pretty much on her knees is holding his leg, begging him to stay. And fast forward a few years later, Dixie's gone. The company sold the Anthem. Jarrett frees GFW. The GFW doesn't last long. It folds in 2017. And as I stated before, the new owners, they would contact Jeff to run and to collaborate and kind of bring the band back together. And Jeff would soon realize that it's not the same, and GFW will fold, and that invasion/partnership will end shortly. Now, also, of course, that Dixie, she was also about money, and she treated Jeff Jarrett very poorly, and she had Jarrett come back to television to run the angle with Kurt and Karen based off of real life circumstances. And we all know that real life circumstances, that always works in wrestling. And the feud that did actually work, I remember watching that feud thinking that this was real, that Jarrett really stole Karen from Kurt. But Karen pretty much cleared all that up in the first two episodes about the situation amongst them. Now, we have Jeff Jarrett and Karen Angle. They did react to the entire show. So we're going to talk about what Karen and Jeff had to say about Dixie Carter. Fair use.
We'll let the Queen tackle this one. Elvis Presley, 7215, wants to know, would you reconcile with Dixie if she wanted to?
No.
Oh, yes, you would.
No, I wouldn't.
Yes, you would.
Not now. Not now. I'm so mad at myself, Conrad, for even entertaining a conversation with her at Hulk's funeral. After finding out the things that I found out through this,
they're painful. I get it.
The company wasn't in bad shape, that Jeff had to be taken out of control.
We know that.
And I know also, no, she could apologize, which she never has to him. She's never owned her shit to him. I want nothing to do with that woman, and I will go to my grave feeling the way I do about her.
No, you won't.
Yeah, I will. I'm not you.
Oh, Conrad, would you stop stirring the pot?
I'm just asking the questions that fans are asking. Eric Morris says, Jeff, do you know why Dixie didn't interview for Dark Side of the Ring? And would you have liked to have heard her side of the story in an interview? I could see as a producer why Evan and Jason would want, point, counterpoint. Let's hear it from all sides. I get that. I do think it's a missed opportunity to have her presence there, but This is probably going to be the deepest dive that most people are ever going to take into her contributions to wrestling, one way or another. This feels like the final note. What do you think about that, Jeff?
Answer this.
I mean, but look, I was just Eric Morse, 85. I appreciate it. And I understand you're not aware, but I've said in multiple interviews, I'll retell the story. I was on a Dark Side of the Ring producer call, and the group, you could kind of tell them going around on a Zoom call. And I just spoke up and it says, hey, do y'all want me to call Dixie? Because the topic was getting Dixie Carter on the show. And they were like, would you? And I said, well, hell yeah. I hung up the phone, texted her. That was before I walked in the gym. A couple hours later, she responded back. I said, hey, let's jump on a call. We jumped on a call. And I strongly encouraged her to get on the phone and call them back. And she said she would, and she did. But I said, Dixie, you need to tell, in my opinion, you need to tell, do an interview. Let them sit you down and you tell your story and you tell your reasons. Tell it all. Yes, I would have really, really liked for her.
So that's something
to have been a part.
So Jarrett just hit the nail on the head right there. So that's something that could have actually happened. A lot of times when people make decisions, they have a perspective about it. And we're not sure what Dixie's perspective was on what or why she made these decisions. A lot of times decisions we make, when it's explained to us, it makes sense. But when it happens, it doesn't. So that's something that could have actually happened if Dixie chose to be on this documentary. Like I said, I don't think there was anything that was defaming about Dixie at all said in this documentary. I think a lot of this was pretty much straightforward. Let's continue.
Part of it.
Well, we know we got the,
and that doesn't just come from I want to make sure this isn't. I'm not looking. I'm not looking for. I'm talking about as a producer. I think it'd been great from a personal point of view. I'm Karen ain't gonna like this. I got a lot of compassion for her.
We're gonna fight tonight.
When you really drill down and kind of, it's God bless her, because Karen's right. We found out more things than we thought we understood, and when you have the hindsight of 15 years later and lots and lots of water under the bridge, and the results, everything. It is what it is.
Hey, we went through 15 years of people talking shit. We finally told our story. She can deal with it now. Did she ever defend Jeff in any of that? Did she ever speak up? There are people in this doc that cannot stand each other, but they all agree on one thing. She was incompetent and way out of, I don't even know the word. Fuck her.
I wish Karen had a strong opinion. I wish the Queen had a strong opinion. Jeff, we know how she feels. Let's say hypothetically, I don't think it's going to happen, but hypothetically, if your phone rang tomorrow about 10:15 and said, "Hey Jeff, why don't we meet for lunch at Arnold's?" Would you go?
Who's calling me?
Dixie Carter.
Sure.
Well, that's what I expect.
I think we need to do a dark side with the knockouts so everybody can hear what they think of her.
Miss Karen, since I got you on your soapbox, and I love when you're up there, you look graceful up there.
I'm sweating.
Let's wrap this. There's no upside to this.
No, sincerely, I do want to get, her take on this. And I know that episode 3 is maybe not top of your mind right now, but I know you got hot and bothered through this process. And I want to just table the Dixie talk for a minute.
Okay.
And I know that I'm not asking you to dunk on anybody, but did you, besides Eric Bischoff, was there anybody else that you took issue with some of their positions? Or was it more of a learning thing for you? Like, oh, I didn't know they saw it that way. Bless their heart, they didn't have all the information.
For Eric, it was disappointing for me because I had conversations with him where he spoke very differently about her.
Right.
Me.
What's he gonna say?
Yeah.
At this point,
no,
I mean,
yeah.
it doesn't
and that's
reflect-
you. I mean, there's,
I want him
I
to-
don't have any issues with anything that anybody said. I mean, everybody was telling a story from their point of view.
Right.
The thing with Vince Russo saying that, nothing changed for him. I don't know if maybe his answer was taken out of context because everything changed at that time. So I'm not sure if there was more to that answer and maybe that was just a clip, but I have no other issues. I got upset when I heard what Eric said because to me, and what was voiced to me on several occasions, what he said on the doc was completely opposite.
Right.
I got played.
My name is Sergio.
All right, so that was Karen Jarrett and her thoughts about Dixie Carter in the documentary as well. And one thing I do want to point out, because she did say this and bring this name up, if you guys don't remember, Awesome Kong was a mainstay and a focal point of the knockouts in TNA during her tenure there. And in the documentary, she discussed that Dixie has a recorded segment that has the entire roster sitting down saying, look, it's either you're going to support me or if you don't, that you're going to have to work somewhere else. And Awesome Kong, aka Kia Stevens, she didn't like that. I'll put it that way. And Karen said, "Ask the knockouts, what do you think about her?" And Kia Stevens, she was the only knockout that was on this documentary. And as Karen said, it's very interesting to see what the knockouts would actually say. Awesome Kong did make a comment on the first two episodes about how the knockouts were paid very little and how the knockouts were making like McDonald's manager wages or fast food wages. But I'm interested to see if any of the knockouts actually speak up about what really went on with Dixie and TNA. And around that time, Kia Stevens, aka Awesome Kong, she would leave for WWE and would be known as Karma, but as she debuted, she would get pregnant and never really got to make an impact in WWE at all. So let me know what you guys think in the comments about all three parts of Dark Side of the Ring. Let me know what you guys think about Dixie Carter. Let me know what you guys think about Russo, Jarrett, Karen, Kurt, anything. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, guys.